Episode 287. Come follow me. Faith in yourself, faith in God. Lessons from Saul and David with Brock Bumgarner.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
In this Come Follow Me coaching conversation, Heather and mental performance coach Brock Bumgarner explore the stories of Saul and David through the lens of confidence, identity, faith, and personal growth. They discuss the delicate balance between trusting God and trusting ourselves, the dangers of outsourcing our identity to others, and how self-doubt can keep us hiding from our potential. Through the contrasting examples of Saul and David, listeners will discover how confidence, humility, and faith work together to help us step into the roles God invites us to fill. Please enjoy.
Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast today. I am joined today by Brock Bumgarner. He was here with me just 2 weeks ago, and I was telling him thank you so much after we closed out recording that episode. It was very timely for me, and I was really glad to have that conversation with him. And what we're talking about today in the Come Follow Me scriptures, I think is really applicable in a lot of ways to what we talked about a couple weeks ago. But we're going to put some new insights in there today. So before we get started, though, Brock, can you give us a quick introduction to yourself?
Yes. So I am a mental performance coach. I work with athletes and other people who are wanting to improve their performance on and off the field. Work with things like confidence, motivation, burnout, and I love how sports and performance is applicable not just between the lines, but outside as well, and like to kind of use that as a lens to reach people who are looking for ways to once again grow both in their sport and outside.
So good. As you're talking about that, in sports, people are very visible, right? They're putting themselves on a stage for everybody to see. And it made me wonder as we're reading these scriptures, the Come Follow Me scriptures, any scripture that we read, I wonder if the people that these are written about had any clue that their lives were going to be picked apart for generations to come by all of us people who are trying to learn and grow. Did they have any idea what their life was going to mean, the stage that they were going to be on?
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a great question. The stage of the scriptures has a bigger audience than
Mm-hmm.
any other, I guess. But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. And, if they had mistakes, they're not forgotten. We relive them over and over for them for forever, it seems like. So,
Yes, we'll get to the highlights and the lowlights
yeah.
of these stories here today, right?
Yes, we will. So, okay, just to give you guys a little bit of a background where we are. So we're in 1 Samuel this week, 8 through 10, 13, 15 through 16. And there's a lot of Come Follow Me podcasts that you can listen to out there that are can give you some really great scriptural historical backgrounds here. And that's really not what we're doing here. We're going to kind of give you a rundown of what's happening so you know where we are, but we love to take this a little bit different and go at it from a life coaching perspective and how, some things you might not be hearing elsewhere because we have this lens of life coaching and our experiences there with our clients that we like to add here. Really quick, this is what's happening in 1 Samuel where we are right now. Israel to this point has been led by judges and prophets like Samuel, but now the people want a king, not because God told them to, but because they want to be like other nations. They are comparing themselves to other people and they want to see that. Samuel does feel hurt, I think, a little bit in this, but God kind of helps him see that it's not a rejection of him. It's more of a rejection of God as their leader. And I love the scripture. It says, they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. And I I like that in a couple different ways because I think it helps us see that rejection from other people is not it doesn't it's never really it's not about us. It's about them. It's about their own thoughts, their own perspective. So when we feel rejected or judged by other people, we have a tendency, we take it personally, but it doesn't tell us anything about us. It tells us something about them. But
Yeah.
anyway, I love this conversation. It's kind of about, or this part in the scripture, it speaks to us a lot about where we get our identity and who we give that authority to. So often we put that outside of us rather than inside of us.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it is interesting how relationship dynamics, interactions with other people is what always causes us to question that identity or create conflict with that identity. Like you said, when we give
Mhm.
other people that power, yeah, it's interesting how that works. Yeah. How do you? What is your recommendation? How do you usually handle that with people when they struggle with their own identity?
It's a hard one, right? I usually turn it back to because people typically, if they're struggling there, have a really hard time. They're not able to access that, and they don't even know like what does that look like. I don't necessarily even know what my identity is, and I usually start with looking at helping people define what is important to them, what their values are, what they want to be versus what they think other people think they should be. So starting kind of at that, kind of giving them that base of discovering what their own personal values are.
Yeah.
I think that's twofold because when you start to do that, you start to recognize that, oh, these are my values and they might not be somebody else's values, you know? And so that allows us that grace for ourselves, but also for other people rather than judging other people for the things that they find are important. We can
Yeah.
see that, oh, they just value different things than I do.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that was the word. One of my favorite frameworks for kind of dealing with conflict, I feel like relates to this. And
Mhm.
it's basically whenever we deal with conflict, we have the tendency to like basically go into a fight or flight response, right? Like
Mhm.
that's kind of how whenever we feel threatened, we want to either run away or we want to fight it. And so those responses often end up resulting in fighting the other person and saying, okay, why did you do this? Like, I'm mad at you for doing this, or wanting to get away from it and just being like, okay, I'm going to pretend that didn't happen and just not thinking about it. It's basically an aggressive or a passive reaction. And, uh, and we usually don't even realize that there's a middle ground there because it's so hard to tell in the midst of those emotions. And that middle ground is like just it's kind of staying in your own lane. It's looking for the win, for the win-win, I guess you could say. An aggressive mindset is a I win, you lose mentality. Like you're wrong. A passive mindset is I lose and you win. I'm just gonna admit defeat and not worry about it. And being assertive is just kind of staying in your lane and saying, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm gonna try and be unaffected by all that you're doing and just try to do what's best for me and best for you could probably put God in that kind of that middle category as well and stay
Yeah.
assertive.
Yeah. So good. And I really think that part of being able to be assertive is those pieces of you understanding you, right? Understanding what you value and when is the time to maybe be a little bit, I don't know, more assertive or less assertive if there's a way that to be that in that framework. But
Yeah.
some things are going to be more important to us than others, but even then, there is a way to have those conversations that can still keep us grounded rather than the confrontational, the aggressive, or the
Yeah.
withdrawing.
Yeah. And like you said, I think when God is included with that, when you know what God wants from you and you're trying to achieve that, like I think that makes that assertiveness even stronger and easier for you to find.
Yeah, it's almost like involving God in this story gives us a confidence that we are not able to find on our own a lot of times. I don't know. I know that with me. Sometimes I think I'm looking to Him so greatly, like, just help me do this, that I sometimes don't do my part because I think, oh, He'll help me do this. And I know He will, but I also have the most success when I do as much of my own part as I can as well, rather than offboarding so much of it and thinking, well, it'll
Yeah.
just work out.
Yeah. No, I agree. I love that. And I love I think it's interesting the balance of like, if we're talking about confidence and believing in yourself, how much of it, because I do think sometimes we can take that belief in having faith in God and let that kind of be an excuse to not have faith in ourselves. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's interesting, I guess, to figure out like how can we have that ultimate faith in God and also that faith in ourselves too, and know that God believes in us, and yeah, act with, if we can act with faith in both things, with faith in ourselves and God, then I think that that's when we're going to be at our best.
Yeah. I don't, maybe this is off topic a little bit, but maybe not. I think it fits in here. I have seen this tendency sometimes in people to just say, I don't know, I'm just going to give it to God and walk away. And though I love that sentiment, I also do think that there's a piece of it that's like, this will sound bold, but there's also a piece of it of like, I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and hope for the best, right? And I would really love, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? What is there, there's a we get to do that part. Yes, we get to give it to God, but also we can't just be blind and bury our head in the sand either.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's interesting. I think in our last episode we talked about humility and confidence and how
Mhm.
they feel like opposites, but I think you can have both. And I'm kind of feeling like the same thing in this situation where we feel like sometimes we feel like faith in ourselves is the opposite of faith in God, and that if we have one, then it sacrifices the other. But I guess I'm thinking out loud in some ways, but I think that it's possible to have both and to separate those and say, no, I can. I don't, and I think we need to give ourselves permission for that sometimes to say, I can have faith in myself and believe fully in my own abilities, and also believe fully in God and his I don't know, his being united with me in those abilities and in my
Yeah.
mission to accomplish whatever I want.
Okay, so you have my wheels turning because I'm looking at, if you're not watching this on YouTube, most likely you're listening to this, so you're not seeing my hands. But Brock was kind of like giving us this scale. Like if had more faith in God, it's almost like sometimes we think we have less faith in us. That's for me, like, that's where we're describing, like, me, how I think that I see it, and I loved that visual because for whatever reason, sometimes we do think that giving somebody something means that I'm less, and that's not, and that goes for so many things. If we think somebody else is good, if we're comparing ourselves, like, if we are like, "Oh, this person is so good at that," it's like if you say to your kid, "Oh, you're really good at riding your bike," but then you don't compliment the other kid, they might think, Am I not good at riding my bike?" It's like the same thing. Like we do the same thing. If we are saying, God, I'm thinking out loud here too, so it's all like I'm all over
Yeah.
the place. But if I'm saying that God is helping me do this, I'm also then saying that I think there's a piece of me that's like discrediting me. So I love bringing those scales together. Like it's okay for them to be the same. I can have faith in God, I can have faith in me, and together, like we make this even better.
Yeah. No, I like that. I feel like that is the example that you see in the scriptures with prophets, is that they
Mhm.
are like, that's the great example of prophets show in the scriptures, is they do have a lot of faith in what they are doing and how they're acting, but also obviously the ultimate faith in God and him being united with them in that cause. So
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Okay, so I think the opposite. I think what we're going to see here next, if we're going to talk about Saul for a second, because Saul has faith in God, but he really lacks confidence in himself. He uh, he ends up being king, but he doesn't start out trying to be the king. He's literally looking for lost donkeys. We reread of the scriptures. And then while he's searching for these donkeys, someone suggests that he talks to Samuel, the prophet, who can help him find these donkeys. And then before Saul even arrives, God tells Samuel, tomorrow about this time, I'm going to send a man, and thou shalt anoint him to be captain over my people Israel. And so, like, this is all happening without Saul even recognizing it. He's been called, he's been chosen, but he really lacks that confidence in himself. So he probably has all the faith in God and very little faith in himself, it sounds to me like here. And I also think it's interesting. It's like he lacks ownership in it, is kind of how I see it. Like he knows that he's been called, but once again, like he hasn't owned up to that. calling himself. I think there's one thing to say, and this is an example of kind of how I've seen this in my life. I have felt like very prompted to do something, and I didn't really want to do it. Like I went kicking and screaming and doing it. And I did what I felt that I was supposed to do, but there was a piece of resentment that came along with it. Like I never actually wanted to do this in the first place. And I kind of resented God a little bit for like feeling like I quote unquote had to do it. And as I look back on that now, I can see, if I could have just been like, oh, you know what? God wants me to do this. And actually, I want to do this too. It would have looked so different. I wouldn't have had that piece of resentment that kind of came along with it. And I did come around eventually and was like super happy that it worked the way that it did. But I could have gotten to that place so much sooner had I had some ownership in it and been like, wait, let me decide. Let me really figure out if this, like God wants me to do this, but also do I want to do this? Like, not that I'm going to go against him, but taking some ownership in that. That was a really
Yeah.
long way to describe kind of what I'm kind of seeing here.
Yeah. No, I can see that too, and it's interesting. I feel like in some ways I see it like once again we're talking about he's got faith in having both faith in God and faith in himself, and to me it seems like
Yeah.
it's kind of going back and forth. It's not just one or the other. It's like in some aspects he has faith in himself, and that's why that's why you get frustrated, right? Is like, why are you making me do this? Because I kind of naturally want to do something else, but you're going along with it at the same time. And I guess like it's not just, I guess once again, this speaks to that relationship. And maybe it's not always my trust levels for myself and for God are both at 100%, but sometimes you have to lean on God a little bit more. And it's probably a good example of relationships in general, right? That like a good
Mhm.
relationship, you're going to be hopefully united in purpose, but there's going to be times where you need the help of the other person and times where you need to step up and have a little bit more of that faith in yourself and your own skills. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's not always just always at 100%, but there's probably some give or take there where you have to have a little bit more of that faith in God. Like that's where when we're waiting a lot of times I feel like, at least for
Yeah.
me, like okay, I'm trying to do my part and I'm ready for the results to come right now. So let's get to that point. That's how I feel like it shows up for me usually.
Yeah. And what about, okay, so this is kind of a different aspect of that, but what about the times when you're having like you do have faith in yourself, but that faith in yourself is like, I know better. Like, okay, God's telling me to do this, but I really think that my way is better. Like I think
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I think there's that piece that can sometimes come in. So we have to be willing to check ourselves a little bit too.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of playing with these
I don't
levels
know
that
what
we're
that
talking
looks
about
like.
in my
Yeah.
head and I'm like, well, I guess the correct answer is we should try to have 100% faith in God all the time. But obviously that's not
Yeah.
realistic. That doesn't always happen and sometimes we're relying more on that faith in terms of just waiting for him than we want to be. But yeah, I guess that would be my thought is we probably want to always be trying to have, and that seems obvious now, but yeah, we always want to
Right.
have faith in him as much as we possibly can. And yeah, naturally sometimes we need to check ourselves a little bit when we get.
Well, this is making me think about what we talked about in our last podcast episode. There was like, there's confidence and humility together, right? So I think that that is the piece that's there. Like, yes, we can be confident in ourselves, but also have the humility to know that there is a higher power who might also see a bigger, better picture than we do. So maybe that's the
No,
piece that
exactly.
belongs there.
I think you're right. I think yeah, we always need to, we can be confident, but yeah, there needs to be that humility. There needs to be that trust in God no matter what.
Yeah.
If we can
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah. And usually, if we don't get there by ourselves, life gets us there really quick.
That's true. We'll God will help us find it if we need to in that sense, I guess.
Yes. Oh,
That's how
that's
the
so true.
cycle works.
Okay, what else can we learn from Saul here? Any other thoughts? I think some of the things like Saul had an identity that kind of held him back when he didn't feel like he fit that anymore. And I think we see that a lot in our own lives, right? Like we identify as a certain, I don't know, we label ourselves and then sometimes we don't fit that anymore. It seems we outgrow something.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that seems like a similar discussion in some ways to me of just
Yeah.
once again when you have that identity for yourself, when you believe that what you're doing or what you want is more important than what God wants. And I guess to me, it still kind of comes back to that dance that we're having of
Mm-hmm.
we're like choosing the direction, but we're trying to also let God lead us at the same time. I don't know. It's kind of interesting in general with that identity, with the identity we're creating for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and how do we, because that's what we're talking about with a lot of this is like basically being united with God in what we're doing. And I guess that's like the question here is how much of your identity should you be choosing yourself, and how much of your identity should you be letting God choose for you? And
Yeah.
I assume that there's a delicate balance there where you try to seek both at the same time. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I think it's a
Mm.
tricky
It is. It is
idea.
tricky. I also look at a little bit as like how like I can identify, like Saul identified, I think, a lot as just, a man. Like he was looking for donkeys. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we know what his profession was, and, but like he probably labeled himself as that. Like, this is who I am. And then being able to shed that identity, or else, and I'm also like, there's this piece of I can be this and I can also be this. I think sometimes, like, I look at my life when I was trying to shift into from being a mom only to like, I'm going to be a mom and I think I want to be a life coach and an entrepreneur and build a business. That was a really hard shift for me because I didn't identify as the latter at all. I didn't identify as somebody who
Yeah.
could build a business. That was actually one of the things where I felt a little bit of resentment because I felt really called to do this, but I hadn't really owned it yet. So I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. I love that. I think that that's awesome. Yeah, and I don't know, I guess you could say in some ways that God wants you to figure out your individual identity,
Yeah.
but he just wants you to include him in your plans while you're
Yes.
doing it, I guess. And so it makes me think I saw something. I'm a big basketball fan and I work with athletes, and I saw a quote the other day of a basketball player who someone actually asked him in a podcast interview how he brings God into the way he plays basketball. And he
Okay.
said that he believed that you should never separate worship from your life, from your hobbies, from leisure, from work, that they should all be a reflection of your worship. And he plays basketball as a form of worship, and that brings him closer to God, and it makes him a better basketball player. And I thought that was really cool because basketball doesn't seem like it has anything to do with God on the surface, but I thought that was a really cool lens to performance and just that you can take to life in general of like, yeah, I can play basketball, I can be a life coach, I can be a gardener, I can do anything with the idea of including God in those plans and worshiping him in the way that I do those activities. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I actually really love that. I love the word worship. I think that's a word that we haven't, I mean, we used in our religious culture, but not really. We do, but we don't. And I think there's a way for us to look at worship so much more as it's just part of our everyday, and anyway, I think that story is a great example of that. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I thought that was really cool.
Mhm. Yeah, good, good, good. Okay, any other thoughts about Saul? Well, this is one of the things, actually, really quick, like, he was right, he actually hid when it came to his being he was supposed to be confirmed as the king, was it? Yeah. He hid. He didn't wanna be there. He couldn't identify as that person, and I think that there are probably so many areas where we are hiding from ourselves. Like, where am I living small? Where am I hiding from the things that I'm capable of doing? And I'm sure you see that all the time as a performance coach, people hiding their greatness because of
Yeah.
their own personal doubts.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that avoidance is definitely one of the go-to strategies when we feel that discomfort.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's hard to face that discomfort sometimes. Once again, I think that um and it's just interesting in this analogy because God really is excuse me, is trying to be there with him to help him and wants to be there with
Mm-hmm.
him, and he's having a hard time seeing that, I would assume, because I think if he was seeing it in that lens and was feeling that, then I would assume that would help his confidence to show up a little bit better. And so I think obviously, once again, the same thing applies to us, that if we can include God in those moments and have him with us and face those challenges with faith in God, and that he can help us through those problems, then I think that we're more likely to succeed, and we're more likely to not avoid those things, right? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a pretty good avoider, and
yes,
I've learned to.
yes.
I've discovered that avoidance for me doesn't really. It just transfers that uncomfortable feeling to a different situation. So I'm either avoiding something I don't want to do, or I'm avoiding the disappointment that I didn't do the thing that I actually did want to do. So there's discomfort either way. I just get to choose which one I want to be uncomfortable with.
It's very true. Yeah, and I think we all do it. It's too easy to distract ourselves, especially with our phones and everything we have at our fingertips these days. So it's an easy tool we
Yeah,
can all use, is distracting
definitely.
ourselves when we're feeling that discomfort.
Yeah. Okay. Before we recorded, we were talking about our favorite parts here, and I know you mentioned that there was a part about Saul and David that you really liked. Do you want to kind of talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I just love so it doesn't work out with Saul, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could say he gets in trouble.
I just think he
Is
doubts himself so much. He's not able to. I don't know what
Yeah,
it is.
no, I would agree. It seems like he fights with that doubt over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great example of performance issues show up for us in life, is once again that imbalance of sometimes we're doubting ourselves, sometimes we're doubting God and not having enough faith in him. And like we said, when we don't have that faith, we eventually fall flat on our face and we get humbled, and then we learn to put that faith in him. And I really like the difference between him and David, who ends up being chosen as the new leader, because Saul has every reason in the world to be confident in himself. I assume I don't know if it says this in the scriptures, but maybe it's just coming from all the cartoon depictions I've seen of stories of David and Saul. But like, you imagine Saul as this huge warrior, the essence of a king, good in battle, strong. Like we said, we don't know what his profession was, but he was probably good at it if he was considered to be a king, and everyone wanted him to be a king. And David is this lowly, weak, maybe not weak, but he's small.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the physical tools, and he's the ultimate underdog story. We all know that. And so just the difference between them, and how one of them has all the physical skills but doesn't have the right spiritual mindset, and David then has the spiritual mindset, but is not have near the physical skills as Saul, but yet he is able to outperform Saul in a lot of different ways. As a performance coach, I love the underdog story. That's probably like my deepest core of why I like sports, is because I like to see the underdog, the short guy, the person who's not supposed to win. And I think that that's just an awesome outline of, like, it doesn't matter if you don't have the physical strength. Like, if you can work on your mindset, if you can build that faith in yourself, build that faith in God, if you can have confidence in yourself, it helps you to regulate, it helps you to perform at your best. And and God will trust you with all of these great things if you can do that, whether or not, once again, he's blessed you with the physical skills that you might feel like you
Mm-hmm.
need. You can achieve so many things and have God and his power with you if you can achieve that spiritual mindset that you need.
Yeah. I think you bring up three things that are like we have different categories, right? We have this physical strength and physical agility. We have spiritual strength and spiritual, agility. And we also have like our emotional strength and our emotional agility. And they're very separate things, but we get to use them together. We need to use them together, and that's where we work to that's where our best efforts come from. Like, we perform at the highest place. We're able to grow and progress in really high places if we're working on all of those areas.
Yeah. No, I agree. And obviously the physical is the easiest one to see.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but that's one of the things I love about coaching is I always say like I like to make the invisible skills visible. I like to find those mindset skills, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional things that we can do to improve and find ways to apply those in real life so we can see and practice them and not just the physical.
Yeah, to your point, like, even when you started saying it looked like we've seen Saul, depicted in pictures as being big and strong, and so we notice him as being something that we think is very capable, where David is smaller, right? We notice those physical things first. And sometimes those things, like, we miss if we just take things firsthand, we miss what's really behind it. Like, we would have missed David, like, what he has done if we just wrote him off from just what we see
Yeah.
depicted.
Yeah, no, it's true, and crazy to think that how easy it would have been if God's hand wasn't in there helping David. He could have easily been somebody that was never mentioned in the scriptures at all, other than somebody that like just came and helped out his older brothers, brought them some food one
Yeah,
time, right? Like just a
yeah,
little footnote or something like that. But
yeah.
yeah,
Something else I think that this brings up for me is, we kinda talked about this in the beginning, we let other people judge, and we create our identity sometimes based upon what we think other people think about us. And I think one of the greatest things that I have learned is to let people be wrong about me, or what I think other people think about me be wrong, right? Like, yeah, they might think this, but they can be wrong. I can show them. I mean, I can be who I am, and people, I can let them be wrong and still grow and be something even greater, if that makes any
yeah.
sense. Just
No,
learning to
it
let other
makes
people.
yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. Like you said, we talked about at the beginning, it's being assertive, right? It's not being able to just know and have confidence that it's not going to help you to it's not going to help you or them to let that conflict, let what they think of you affect you. And if you can have faith and confidence in yourself and in God,
Mhm.
then and just be strong in that, then that's going to be the best. Like you're going to be going in the right direction. You're going to find the right things that you need to find, and it's hard to get to that point sometimes. It's hard to convince yourself or others that that is the truth, but it's definitely there. And if you can wrap your head around it, then there's nothing that can stop you, just like nothing could stop David from getting to where he was meant to be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I yeah, I think that's so true. I'm even thinking about how this plays into being assertive. Did we talk about being assertive in this episode or the other one? Can't
It was this
remember.
one.
They're
You're
blending
good. It
together
was
this
this
one.
one.
So
Yeah.
sometimes I find myself thinking that if I'm assertive and I say what I think is important here, this person's going to think this and this about me. They're going to think that I don't know, whatever they think. But I have a tendency to think what other people might think of me if I do something. And I have to find myself reminding, well, they can be wrong about me. They can think that, but I know that I love and I have the best intentions. Obviously, we want to portray that and we want to be truly coming from that place. But I
Mm.
think learning to stand up and be who we are takes us being willing to let people be wrong about us. And I think that David really shows that, right? Like, he was able to stand up and be somebody different than probably people thought of him, and he didn't let that keep
Mhm.
him small.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I think we're kind of talking about this that you're insinuating this, but it's a lot of times people think assertive is just being assertive is a communication style, which it is, but it's kind of just having that mindset. And that's what you're explaining here, I feel like, is it's
Yeah.
not just talking or speaking assertively, but yeah, in my head, I am assertive. I believe in what I need to do. And, and I am not going to let what others say about me affect me. And
Yeah.
like we said, it's hard to get to that point, but you said it really well. It definitely frees us to get where we need to.
Yeah. Well, Brock, thank you. Is there anything before we wind up? Was there anything else from these scriptures that you wanted to share, or have we touched on it?
I feel like we touched on a lot of good stuff right there.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. It's awesome. Okay, Brock, I would love for people to know how they can connect with you before we sign off here.
Yes. So you can connect with me on the Leading Edge Coaching, or at the Leading Edge Coaching on Instagram. My
Okay.
website is theleadingedgecoaching.com, and you can also find me on the LDS Life Coaches directory as well. I'd be happy to hear from people.
Yeah, reach out. His contact info is on the directory as well, but we'll link to all those things in the show notes and you guys can connect with him there. Lots of brilliant things to be said here. Thank you, Brock. And thank you for all of you who joined us. And, we'd love to hear from you. If you are liking this Come Follow Me focus, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are as listeners because we want to make this what you guys want to have. You can email us at email@ldslifecoaches.com and let us know what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.